and which is extremely apparent if you look at it with a clear heart, and look at the countries that have Islamic Sharia. The murder rate there, or the zina rate there, the amount of adultery that takes place there, right? The amount of children that are born there outside of wedlock, the amount of children that have to ask their mother, "Who is my father?" Right? In countries that have Islamic law, these numbers will be very low. But countries like ours, where the laws are, loose, right? The laws are loose. You see these numbers are, skyrocket high. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِصَاصِ حَيَاتٌ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. It was like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew. 1400 years ago, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew that, people would raise an objection and say that your Islamic Sharia is, barbaric. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers that question 1400 years ago. Saying that 1400 years later in America, somebody's going to get up and say, Islamic Sharia, Sharia law, Sharia law, Sharia law. And they're going to kick up a storm because of this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَكُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ. That at times you might dislike something, but there's khair in it for you. It's like that spoon of medicine, that when our children get a severe cold or a severe cough, and you have to hold their nose and take that bitter medicine and put it into their mouth. Why? Is it because we want to punish them? Is it because we hate them? No. It's because we love them. And this is a qisas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us, that yes, this qisas might be strong and stringent and very tough, but it's because of the love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has for us. If you look at Islam, in the laws of Islam, there are 5 things which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects. 5 things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects inside the laws of Islam. You have, number 1, the deen of a person. Our religion that we have. And this is one of the most valuable things that we have, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects us. Number 2, the wealth of a person's wealth. And we spoke about in the previous hadith that the wealth and the blood of a believer will be haram. Right? Number 3, the health of a person. Number 4, the honor of a person. And number 5, the intellect of a person. These 5 things in Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects. And inside Islam, wherever these 5 things are at danger, we have deen, health, wealth, honor, intellect. These 5 things. When these 5 things are at risk, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then in return says, the person who puts these 5 things, they should be punished. Right? You have deen. A person who leaves his deen, right? The third person that is mentioned in this hadith. A person who leaves his deen, qisas will be done upon him. Right? His life will be taken. Why? To tell you that, look, leaving your deen, this is the worst thing possible that you can do. It's like that, you're scaring this person straight. That don't do it. Why? Because you really need it. And then, you have a person who steals, who takes someone else's wealth. Right? What's a qisas? Again, it's not like in Aladdin, right? In Disney cartoons, they show that a little kid takes an apple and the guy takes out a sword ready to cut off the hand. But in Islamic Sharia, there's actually a set of laws that has to be followed, a set of rules and regulations. That a person who steals, his hands will be cut, but it has to be worth a certain amount. Not that you steal one apple, your hand gets cut off. There's a limit that when a person steals above this, then that stealing was the thing that was taken, was that protected or unprotected. So there's a whole set of laws that Islam has. But when the wealth of somebody is at risk, then Islam says, there has to be qisas. Then you have when a person drinks alcohol. When a person drinks alcohol, what's at risk here? Out of the 5 things that we mentioned, what's at risk? His intellect. His aql is at intellect. His aql is at risk. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you put your aql at risk, had whip this person. Then you have when a person's honor is at risk. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran makes mention that when a person is accused of something that they haven't done, then fajdidu, whip this person. So you look at these 5 things. Wherever these 5 things, when they are at risk, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, there should be a punishment that should be taken out. Right? Because these 5 things for us, our deen, our wealth, our health, our honor, and our intellect, they are sacred in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why in one hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, very famous hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, "Iqtanim khamsan qabla khamsan." Value 5 things before 5. And one of the 5 things Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam makes mention is, value your health before you die. Right? Another thing, value your life before you die, and value your health before you become sick. Right? So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in this hadith says, value your life before you die. Now anything that can be valued, if I'm telling you to value something, it means this thing is precious. I won't tell you to go outside and value the garbage can. I won't tell you to go outside and value something that has no price to it at all. But whatever something that it has to be valued, when we say that value your parents. Why? Because they're qimti. They're a treasure that you'll never realize what the value of. Right? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he says value your life, why? Because there's a price to it. An extreme price. It is something precious in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam instructs us to value. Now, something that's so valuable in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the life of a person. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in another hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, once he went in front of the Kaaba, and he spoke to the Kaaba. He spoke to this structure, this building, and he said, "How beautiful are you? How beautiful are you? How blessed are you? How gracious are you?" And he started doing ta'rif of the Kaaba. Started praising the Kaaba. Right? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had a special connection to the Kaaba. Why? Because it was the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, built by the forefather of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a very special connection with the Kaaba. When he was leaving the city of Mecca, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to the city of Mecca, that if it wasn't for my people kicking me out, I would never leave the city. Right? So here Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's speaking to the Kaaba and says, "You're so blessed, you're so gracious, you're so beautiful, but the honor of a believer is even better, more gracious than you are." Right? And this is why they say that to break a believer's heart, to break a person's heart, it is worse than breaking the Kaaba. Right? It comes through this hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam praises the Kaaba. Now something that is valuable in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, look, even though there's so much value to it, we will still take it away. We will still take it away when one of these 3 things happen. When one of these 3 things happen, even though this thing is so valuable in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will be taken away. And first of the 3 things is a thayyibu zani, a person who commits adultery. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes mention of the ayat of zina, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. Right? وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. Now, anybody who understands a little bit of Arabic, actually not even Arabic, if you understand some Urdu. Urdu we say something that is near, what do we say? Qareeb. Taqrub and Qareeb come from the same root words. The word language Urdu, it actually means a mixture. It's a mixture of many different languages. The Urdu language is actually a mixture of many different languages. A bit of Farsi, a bit of Sanskrit, a bit of Arabic. Different languages mixed together. So in Urdu we say Qareeb. And Taqrub means don't go close to something. Don't go near something. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, He doesn't say don't commit zina. He says don't even go close to it. Anything that leads you to it. Anything that is a path. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He uses the same wording in other places as well. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا مَالَ الْيَتِيمِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, don't even go close to the wealth of an orphan. That's not yours. You are being made entrusted. Someone has entrusted you with that. Be mindful of the wealth of an orphan. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. Don't even go close to zina. Anything that will lead you to zina, anything that will guide you to zina, stay away from it. Right? And this is why in one hadith Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says that the eyes, they commit zina. The tongue, it commits zina. The ears, they commit zina. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam asked Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, how do the eyes commit zina? He says, do you look at something that then it entices your lust and your emotions? Right? It gets your emotions going until you fall into zina. Or you hear something. In one hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says that a person who listens to music, he falls into zina.
Allah.
A person who listens to music, he falls into zina. Why? Because music plays with our emotions. It plays with our emotions, it pumps us up, it gets our adrenaline going, and then when that energy that's in us is not released, we look for forms to release that energy. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in one hadith, he actually says that a person who constantly listens to music, he falls into zina. So anything that, again, Rasulullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayah, he says, don't go towards anything that leads you to zina. So your eyes, your tongue, if you say certain things, right? If you hear certain things, if you listen to music that has this message to it. I recently came across just one line. I didn't even read the full thing. Some lyrics to a song, right? Someone had printed out on a piece of paper, and I just read one line, and that one line itself was, even though it was a child's song, right? And if I'm correct, it was through Disney. But that one line itself had such a bad meaning hidden into it that you can understand this hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, because of music, the message that is hidden in music, the words, the lyrics that are hidden inside music, this then leads a person to zina. This one line was, "I want to kiss you like a prince," right? The famous Disney story that they have, a princess and a prince. They end up kissing, and she wakes up. Just that fact. And they put this in a song, and then now this child listens to it over and over and over. And then they ask themselves questions, I wonder what this feeling is like. And then they go to act upon it. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, a person who listens to music, right? The wordings. Now, again, there's two parts. I know we're kind of going to a fiqh discussion here, right? One is the lyrics, and the other is the actual instruments. Right? The actual instruments, they play with their emotions. The lyrics, the messages that are hidden, the words that are used, again, majority of the time, it's very immoral. It teaches, it goes against haya, it goes against modesty, where both of these would be impermissible. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, another hadith, again, talking about going towards zina, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, another hadith, says that stay away from mawazi ud-duhm, the places where you can be accused. So we're talking about stay away from anything that leads you to zina, and stay away from anything that you can be accused of zina or any kind of sin. One time Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in itikaf inside the masjid. And again, this is in the final years of the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was after the 7th year of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life. 7th year of Hijrah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was inside the masjid in itikaf, and the wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was outside. Safiya radiallahu anha, one of the last wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she was outside the masjid of Masjid Nabawi, and they were talking to one another. And two companions, they walked by, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he asked the companions, "Come back." Right? They just walked by, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Come back." Now, when they came back, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Look, this is Safiya. This is Safiya Ummahatul Mu'mineen, Safiya, and she's my wife. I'm not talking to anybody impermissible." So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he teaches us a very valuable lesson here. What did he teach us? That anywhere that you can be accused, anywhere that there can be, your honor can be hurt, stay away from that. Right? If you are at night and you're walking past a road that has, many clubs or many, immoral places, take another road. Why? Because it might be very possible you're walking down that road and someone driving by sees you. And Mona is on this road. Right? Someone sees you and immediately they accuse you. So anywhere that that your honor can be hurt, don't even go close to it. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this hadith, he shows us that when these two companions, he calls these two companions back and he clarifies the matter. And the companions actually say to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Rasulullah, we can never accuse you of something like this. We can never even accuse you of something like this. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he teaches us, there are certain things that every single human being can fall weak to. Certain things that every single human being can fall weak to. One is the fitna of wealth, the fitna of money, right? And they comment that every person has a price. Why? Because al-mal wal-banun zinat al-dunya. That wealth and children, they're the luxuries of the dunya. That shaitan will come and whisper and whisper and whisper into your ears. And you might say that you don't need it for yourself. Don't be selfish, you don't need it for yourself, but think about your children. Think about someone else you can help with this money. Right? So there are two things. Number one is mal, and number two is fitnatul nisa. And for women, opposite, fitnatul rijal. That no man is so strong that they say that I am free from this fitna. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this hadith, he makes it clear that look, she's my wife. I'm not falling into this fitna, but she's my wife. She's my wife, Safiya radiallahu anha. Now, at times we might say, a person might say that I have enough control and power over my iman that I won't fall into these fitnas. Right? A person might say, I have enough control, I pray my salah, I do this, I do that I won't fall into the fitna. A person should remember the tricks of shaitan. The tricks of shaitan. Shaitan, he took Qarun. Qarun, before he became Qarun, he was actually a worshipper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He used to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala non-stop, and that's all he would do. And slowly, shaitan took him and turned him against, and made him the enemy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So no one person is safe from the traps of shaitan. So you can never say that my iman is powerful enough, that I'm at a level that my iman cannot be affected. Right? Especially when it comes to the fitna of women. In one hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, when there are two people, when there's one person, the third is shaitan. And when there are two people, when there's one person, the second is shaitan. When there are two people, the third is shaitan. And yadullah al-jama'ah. And when there are multiple people, when there are a lot of people, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with a group. So going back to the topic that we were speaking about. Zina again is one of the signs of the day of judgment. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he mentions the sign of the day of judgment, one of the signs that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam makes mention is that zina will become very common. And you ask, what? If that isn't our generation, then what generation could it be? Right? If that isn't our generation, what generation could it be? I remember one of my close friends, he was a sheikh, and he was telling me that a Muslim man came to him and said that, sheikh, I have to commit zina every day. I have to commit zina every single day. Right? He goes, I need help. Why? Because I can't control myself and I have to commit zina every single day. Okay? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this hadith, and another hadith says that it is from the signs of the day of judgment that zina will become very abundant. And to the point that when companions came to Aisha radhiyallahu, and they asked the Aisha radhiyallahu, Ummul Aisha, what causes earthquakes? What causes earthquakes? Scientists and geologists might say that it's the shifting of this and that. But as Aisha radhiyallahu, she says, what causes earthquakes? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, let me explain. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says two things: zina and alcohol. Zina and alcohol, they anger Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to a point that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's anger, it goes into motion in the skies. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands the earth, zalzil, shake, tremble, move with these people upon you. And it was just because of dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he actually made dua. There was a dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Oh Allah, don't let my ummah be destroyed like you destroyed the ummahs before." Right? If you look at the previous ummahs, of Ad, Thamud, Lut, of the previous ummahs, the sins that they commit, we commit all of those sins. Each of those nations committed one sin, that nation committed another sin. But we commit all of these sins. And you ask that why is it Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasn't destroyed our nation? Is because of dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah actually made dua, oh Allah, don't destroy my nation all at once like you destroyed the nations before us. And he said that number 2, don't let any tyrant destroy everybody. Destroy all the believers. Different tyrants have came, right? You have Genghis Khan, and different tyrants have came. The recent ones as well that are bloodthirsty of Muslim blood. But because of the dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the whole Muslim ummah hasn't been wiped out. And the third dua that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made, but this third dua Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he held on to it, he didn't accept it, was that don't let my ummah fight amongst each other. And you see this today, that the ummah is, forget about somebody else hurting us, forget about another nation attacking us, but the Muslims are fighting themselves. The common rule, divide and conquer, right? You divide the Muslims. Why? Because if the Muslims were to be united, then there will be an unstoppable force. Unstoppable force because of the power of iman. We're not talking about numbers and strength. We're talking about their iman, right? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says that what causes earthquakes, it is because of 2 things: alcohol and zina. Now we come to a point where zina in our day and age, people have become very proud over it. Very proud over it. And this is why, going back to social media, you see all over social media people are posting, all sorts of comments and messages that they did this, they did that. In one of these, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that a time will come where the celebrities, the rulers, right, the people that other people, the common person, the common folk, you and I, who we look up to, they will be the scum, the children of scum. They will openly commit sin. They will openly commit sin, and we, the common person, will look past their sin and we will fall deep in love with it. Right? What is a celebrity? A celebrity is somebody who you fall deeply in love with and you follow them. Right? They cut their hair like this and you cut your hair like this. They wear certain types of shoes. Again, I talk to myself first. Right? That they wear certain types of shoes and we wear those certain types of shoes, just like them. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying that a time will come when the celebrities, they will be the scum, the children of the scum, the worst people that openly commit sin, any type of sin. Abdullah ibn Abbas, he says that when a person does a good deed, when a person does any good deed, 5 effects go into motion. When a person does a good deed, 5 different effects go into motion. Number 1, Diya ala wajhi. That a diya, diya comes from the same root words of wudu. That the special light comes out. Right? When a person does a good deed, there's a special nur put on his face. Right? We're not talking about a facial or some special cream, but just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts a nur. And I'm sure everybody has met people like this, that their face just has a special light on it. And this person has to be someone close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He just hands it to another level. We're not talking about, fair and lovely, or there is darkened skin or lightened skin. Right? Not darkened skin, lightened skin, but just a special nur on a person's face that says that this person, he has to be someone close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So number 1, the first thing that goes in motion, when a person does a good deed, the first thing that goes in motion is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts a diya on his face. Number 2, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the face, it goes to his heart. He has a nur in his heart. In his heart, there is a light in his heart that guides him to a follow-up. That guides him to a follow-up. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, a sign of the fact that your deed has been accepted. Any deed that you do, let's say you pray Fajr Salah. How do you know that Fajr Salah is accepted? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, one sign that deed is accepted, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He loves it so much that He gives you the tawfiq, the ability to do it again. Just the fact that you could do it again, that itself is a clear sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loved that you did it the first time. And if you didn't do it well the first time, it's possible Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, it's not good enough, I don't want it again. Right? So the fact that you're following up, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts nur into our hearts that opens the path and guides our hearts for us to follow up that deed. The third thing that Ibn Abbas says, from diya to the face to nur to the heart, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts barakah in our rizq. In our rizq, the wealth that we have. And this is why you see that there's so many people that they live a pious life and the very little that they have is sufficient for them. We spoke about this many times. And there are those people that live such a wretched life that no matter how much they have, it's never enough. They're still falling behind. They still have this bill and that bill and that kind of headache and this kind of tension on their mind. Right? So the third thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does, He puts barakah in their rizq. And then the fourth thing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives this person quwwah in their body. Strength in their body. Right? And we're not talking about physical strength. Right? We're not talking about the muscles on top of muscles. But we're talking about this person, he has the power to lift off that 1 pound blanket off of him and wake up for salah. Right? Maybe he might bench 200, 300 pounds. But then when the morning time comes, he can't even lift off that 1 pound blanket. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts quwwah in their body that he no longer is lazy. Now you see, there are so many people that they live a very active life, but when it comes time for salah, or when it comes time to do good deeds, these people, then they become the most laziest person. And that makes no sense. The person lives the most, very active life. Always running, always, in sports. But then this person is very lazy as well. And you see why? Because of this hadith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when a person does a good deed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him quwwah in his body, strength in his body. And this person is no longer lazy. How many times have we woken up for Fajr? I just can't get up. 5 minutes more. Right? We tell ourselves, I need some more time. Let me sleep a little bit more. And you see those people, as soon as their alarm clocks go off, Fajr time. Get up. Maybe at work time, they might just snooze but a couple of times, but when it's time to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where does that power come from? Where does that strength come from? You look at a mother, a lady who, by nature, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates women weaker than men. Just by nature. The delicacy, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all 5 of our fingers are not equal. But yet every single finger is important. They play a different role. Right? If everybody was strong and built and nobody had mercy and love, then this world would be full of tyrants. To balance it out, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts women who then humble us down with the love and the care that they show us. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He creates a woman who by natural is weaker. But when this lady, when she's expecting a child, she now has more power than we have. You tell us that carry around 20 pounds of weight all throughout the day. Right? Walk so many miles and climb up the stairs with 20 pounds a day. You might be able to do the first hour, second hour, but then you can't do this all day long. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where does that power come from? It comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the same power Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives, to us when we do good deeds. What? And the last, number 5, the 5th thing that Ibn Abbas says, that when a person does a good deed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives love in the hearts of other people. That everybody just loves this person. Right? In one hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves somebody, He calls Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam. He tells Jibreel, come here. And He points this person out, that so-and-so person, I love him. Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam replies, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you love him, then I love him. And then Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam, he leaves and he goes and makes an announcement in the heavens, in the skies. That just now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves so-and-so person. And I, Jibreel, I back up that statement, I love that person. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves this person, and Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam loves this person, then everybody in the skies, in the heaven, they say that we love that person as well. And then the hadith carries on and says, and then that effect is then carried on into the dwellers of the dunya. That when everybody is loving in the skies, this love then comes down And naturally, people around this person, they fall in love with this person because of his characteristics. And just a magnet that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He benefits others. He looks out for others. So the fifth thing that Ibn Abbas says, that is that other people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, put love for that person in other people's hearts. Then Ibn Abbas, he carries on and he says that, but when a person commits a sin, these same 5 things are then turned around. They're switched around. That number 1, they have a darkness, a dhalala, a manhusat, a wretchedness in their face. Again, we're not talking about skin color. We're not talking about skin color here, but just a wretchedness. You can be the whitest of skin, a handsome man, but just has this look to his face. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Rahman, He says, يُعْرَفُ الْمُجْرِمُونَ بِسِيمَاهُمْ. That the sinners, you could tell by their faces. فَيُؤْخَذُ بِالنَّوَاسِ وَالْأَقْدَامِ. They'll be taken by the nawasi, their heads, and the aqdam, and their feet. And they'll be thrown into the fire of Jahannam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says that when a person commits a sin, you can tell at their face. This has, when you look at so many tyrants that pass by, you look at their picture and just have this khabasa, this darkness and this hatred in their faces. And then number 2, they have the same darkness in their hearts. Right? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says when a person commits a sin, a very famous hadith, that a black dot is put upon his heart. And slowly it becomes a cluster, and then slowly it becomes a cancer that spreads out and covers his whole heart. Maybe not physically, but this is كَلَّا بَلْ رَانَ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبِهِمْ. No, but their hearts have been sealed off, and they have been closed, and now nothing good can go inside. It's a safety wall, making sure that no good goes inside when a person commits a sin. Right? But then this rust can be cleaned off, and it can be rejuvenated, and life can go back into this heart. Number 3, when a person commits a sin, his wealth is decreased. The wealth that he's supposed to receive, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes away from there. Right? And you see that maybe you might say that there are so many people that are really rich. They might be sinners. They might live a life full of bihayai and fahishat and disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they live a very wealthy and healthy, a very wealthy and luxurious life. But by this hadith, Rasulullah by this saying of Ibn Abbas, we learn that this person, he was supposed to receive more. Right? As much as he has, his cap was much more. He was supposed to read much more, but because of his sins, it was taken away. Or, at the same time, the amount that he had, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes away the barakah from there. Right? That it's not sufficient enough, it's not enough for him. And then, as we may mention before, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He makes a person's body weak. Right? When a person commits a sin, when a person does a good deed, He gives a person strength, but when a person commits a sin, his body becomes weak. And just like that, we see that if somebody were to message you or text you that I'm going to the gym, you want to come with me, right? Oh, you're going to play basketball? Okay, let me grab my shoes. I'll be there. But that same person, that same friend of yours, he texts you, look, there's a lecture, or there's I'm going to Maghrib Salah, or I'm going to this place, I'm going to this gathering. You want to come with me? I'm not feeling too well today. Right? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He takes away that strength from our body. That you might be the most active person, right? Play a couple of hours of basketball, no problem at all. But just to sit and stay awake, in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let me take that power away from your body. Let me take that strength away from your body. And then, the 5th thing, Rasulullah in Abbas, he says, that a person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts hatred in people's hearts for this person. Right? And we talked about this last week. Al-hubbu fillah wal-bughzu fillah. That to love someone for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to hate somebody for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, another thing about zina, right? This whole thing, the whole discussion of these 5 things It was because of sins that we commit and the effect that it has on us. Especially something like zina. Now, why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you look at the three things that are mentioned here, three things that are mentioned in this hadith, you have number one, we'll go backwards. Number three, what is number three? A person who leaves Islam. Number two, a person who kills another person. And number three, so in this last one, his deen, the fact that he's going to go to Jannah, that's at risk. Number two, he took somebody's the right to live away. But number three is zina. He hasn't hurt his own deen. He hasn't took somebody's life. But why is it that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he puts these three together? Right? Why is it that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when you put things in a role, when you put things together, they should be equal. They should be somewhat similar. So you have leaving Islam, then you have killing somebody, but then you have committing zina. Right? How come? Why does this committing zina fall under this category? Now, of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Islam, we look at the rights of other people. Zina is such a disease that it destroys a community from within. Children are born outside of marriage. And this child, he then does not get the supervision that he deserves. Right? You look at statistics, just look at the statistics. That children that are raised in a wholesome family with a loving father and loving mother, that how they turn out to be. Right? Illa mashallah, right? There might be some exceptional cases, but children that are born outside of wedlock, where there's no father figure or there's no mother figure, right? To single parents, again, there is a certain love that is missing in their lives. And that development of a child, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives us our mother and father. Why? Because they are part of the process of our development. Right? رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِ صَغِيرًا. Oh Allah, have mercy on them the way that they had mercy upon me. And they did my upbringing. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is our Rabb, but He uses our parents to do this upbringing of ours. So when children are born outside of wedlock, right? When children are born outside of wedlock, we see that it then has an effect on the community, that they don't get their nurture and the nurturing that they need, and then this has an effect on their own outcome. And we spoke about the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that a time will come where the celebrities and people, the great people, the leaders will be scum, the children of the scum. Low light, really low people, the children of low people, that this whole family tree, it was just like that. And nobody had a chance. Now, the question is, how does a person stay away from such a sin? How does a person stay away from that? Now, before we get to there, in this hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he makes mention of a person who does not only commit a zina, but a person who is married and commits zina. A married person, a thayyib zina, a thayyib zani, is a married person who commits zina. Now, why is it that a married person that commits zina, his punishment is greater than the person who is not married? Right? The reason being is that this person already has a venue to release and take care of those desires. Right? This person already has a venue to take care of these desires, but yet, he goes around breaking households, spreading this fahsha, spreading this immorality in the community. And this is why, there are levels of sins, right? There are levels of sins. That, a person that commits zina, yes, it's bad. Then a person who's married to commit zina, that's bad. Then a person who commits zina at an old age, that's worse. Then a person who commits zina, with a neighbor, that's worse. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he makes mention of these different layers that it can get worse and worse and worse. Right? So in this hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam makes mention that a person who is already married, right? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in another hadith, he actually instructs us that when you go out and you look at the opposite gender and emotions light up inside of you, then go home to your spouses and take care of those needs. The way to safeguard yourself is to go home to your spouses and take care of those needs, right? Not to just go home and forget about it, but go home and take care of those needs. Why? Because don't let that build up inside you. Whether it slowly builds up and then you let it out, that's a wrong source. Right? Another hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, "Man istata'a minkum al-ba'a falyatazawwaj." Whoever from amongst you is capable to get married, they should get married. One very common mistake that we make in our day and age is that we believe that a person should get married and when they're 27, 29, 30, maybe 35 years old. Right? This is our common. So many times you see people, brothers that get married at 20. I got married when I was 18. And I had so many people ask me that, was everything okay? Why do you have to get married at 18? Right? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this hadith, he instructs us that when a person is capable to get married, mentally, right, emotionally, then he should go out and get married. Right? Don't think about your career and financial. Yes, have some sort of plan, but at the end of the day, have some tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Things will fall into a place. Right? You can't expect a person to become a father before he becomes a father. When he becomes a father, things will fall into place. Some of us that when we're about to have our first child, we think, how am I going to be a father? Right? How am I going to take care of another John, another being, another living being? How am I going to take care? But then when this child comes into our life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He lays out the pathway for us, and things just fall into place. Right? So when a person thinks about getting married, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this hadith says, "Man istata'a minkum al-ba'a." Man istata'a, whoever is capable, then they should get married immediately. Right? And the hadith carries on, and whoever is not capable, then then the person, he should fast. Right? If you're not capable to get married, if you don't have the means, right? If a person is not mature enough, then this person should fast. Fast, why? Because this controls your desires. It teaches you how to control your desires. كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. The reason why fasting has been made obligatory upon us is so that we learn this quality of taqwa, and that taqwa is controlling ourselves. That when you see something haram, you stay away from that. Taqwa is when you see something haram, when you see, you say music that's haram, stay away from it. When you see the opposite gender that's, haram upon us, stay away from it. When you see wealth that is haram, not ours, you might want to take it and, keep it, but it's haram, you stay away from it. That is taqwa. This is what taqwa is. Beware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that keeps you away from sinning. Right? So when a person fasts, he gains self-control, and he's able to then control his desires. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you look at these two different hadiths, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he teaches us how to control our desires. Right? And that is that a person who is married, he should go to his family. A person that is not married, then he should get married. And if a person does not have the means to get married, then he should begin to fast. Then another in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives us another step, another extra step, and which we hear pretty much every Jummah. Inna salata tanha anil fahsha. That salah, it saves you from fahsha and immoral things. Right? And it saves you from committing sin. Right? How is that? In one place, in the 14 Juz, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He actually makes mention, a very beautiful misal, a very beautiful example. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, don't be like the woman who is knitting. Who is knitting. Now, have you ever seen somebody knit a sweater or a hat or some socks? Right? For hours and hours, they're there knitting away. And just something very basic, a blanket, will take them hours. But that whole blanket can be destroyed just by pulling one string. Just by pulling one string. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, He makes mention that don't be like that woman who knits and knits and knits. She builds up this blanket. And your blanket are your good deeds. All these different good deeds that you put together. And then you pull the string. You pull the string by committing a sin, a great sin, where all of your deeds are now gone to waste. The hours of mehnet, the lifetime of hardship and difficulty that you went through, it's all gone to waste. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that salah is one of the things that will stop you, it will remind you that when you go up to pray in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will say that I don't want my good deeds to go to waste. Right? Look at a person that wakes up for tahajjud, who prays this 5 times salah on time with khushu, with your full heart. This person will not commit sin. Why? Whenever he's faced with a temptation, whenever temptation slaps this person in the face, he will immediately turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? If he says to himself that he says that I'm going to commit zina after Zohar Salah. But then you think that I have Asr Salah to pray. Right? Or after Asr Salah, I have Maghrib Salah to pray. Right? A person who's taking that shower of Salah, who's going through that waterfall of Salah, and he's cleansing himself 5 times a day, this then protects the person. Now, the second thing in this hadith that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam makes mention is an-nafsu bin-nafs. An-nafsu bin-nafs. So the first was a thayyib zani, a married man who commits zina. And we spoke about that. Now the second person whose life will be underlined here is an-nafsu bin-nafs, the person who hates another soul. And again we spoke about this, how life itself is valuable in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you take away a person's life, when you kill a person, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly in the Quran says you want this person should not be killed. And this is now, if you look at the value of insan, of life, if you look at the value of life is so valuable in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now there are certain things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made haram. Right? حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةَ وَالدَّمَ وَلَحْمَ الْخِنْزِيرِ. There are certain things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is haram. You can't eat from mayta, an animal that's already dead. Right? An animal, you can't eat from pork. You can't eat from certain things. But life itself is so valuable in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions all of these different things that you can't eat from this, and this is haram, and that's haram, and that's haram, He immediately after that says, but if you are in a situation where you are extremely desperate, then don't worry, those haram things are now halal upon you. Those haram things, your life is so valuable. Just imagine this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is basically telling us, that your life is so valuable that things that displease me, things that anger me, right? I will make that permissible upon you just to save your life. As long as, there are 2 conditions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has 2 conditions. You only, number 1, you're not happy about it. And you only eat enough that is needed. It's not that your life is at risk and you go out, you're on a buffet, right? Eat as much as you want, it's halal today, have all the ham and all the bacon, have everything that you want, and enjoy it, right? No. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I will make the haram halal upon you just because your life is that valuable to me. Your life is that valuable to me. And the third thing that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam makes mention in this hadith is a person who leaves his deen, who apostate from Islam, a person who leaves Islam. And it's funny that we have this hadith today. Today in Jummah, in the middle school, 2 girls came to me. They're in the 8th grade class here, Yusra Asif and Samia Sayyidab. They came to me and said, Mr. Mubeen, something really amazing happened. And they're really happy. They were so happy that after they told me, whenever they saw me, they said, tell this person, and tell that person, tell that person. They were really happy about it. They said to me, what happened was, after Salah, we were in the bathroom, in the ladies' bathroom, and there was a lady there who was, emotionally stressed, who wasn't, in her right place. And these kids asked her, what happened, is everything fine? And she said to them that, look, I'm doubting my religion. I'm doubting my iman. I'm worried about my iman. I'm worried that this might not be the right religion. And these 2 8th grade girls, they said that from whatever little we knew, we started to explain Islam to this lady, who is Muslim. She's in the masjid, in this masjid today. We're not talking about somewhere else and back home, or sheikhs and allamas. We're talking about 8th grade students upstairs in the women's bathroom. They started preaching Islam to this Muslim lady until she finally says, Alhamdulillah, I'm content on my iman. I'm content on my iman, and I'm going to stay on Islam. Right? I'm content on my iman, I'm going to stay on Islam. And this happened just today. And here in today's hadith, we see that this is one of the greatest sins. That a person, he leaves his deen. Now, nobody who apostates from Islam, who leaves Islam, has in their mindset that I'm going to leave Islam. There's no one like that. Okay? Nobody said, okay, I'm going to leave Islam. Everybody, when they are Muslim, when they have iman, they're just like you and I. They're firm on their religion, and they consider themselves safe. One of the absolute most important du'as that you can make, forget about asking for good health, forget about asking for wealth. But the most important dua that you can make is Khatima bil Iman. To ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the final stages of your life that you have iman there. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says in one hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالْخَوَاتِمِ. Actions are based upon the ending. The whole book, it can be absolutely amazing. The whole 2-hour movie that you watch, it could be good, but the ending is bekar, wasted. But if the ending is good, it was worth it. Your life, you can live your life the way you want. But at the end of your life, if you have iman, then you are a success. But on the opposite side, a person, he lives his life according to Islam. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect every single one of us, because none of us knows what our outcome will be. Allahumma ja'alna min al-fa'izin. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those who are successful. But who is successful? What is the definition of a person who is successful? A definition of a person that is successful is a person who leaves this dunya with their iman intact, with their iman safe. You and I, our iman is currently safe, but again, there's no guarantee at all. In Chicago itself, I remember when I first came to Chicago, there was this one brother, and this brother was, is from, there's those people that when you see them, you remember Allah. Right? There are certain people that when you see them, you remember Allah. MashaAllah, this brother was young brother. He was in high school, following the sunnah as much as he can. It was a little beard that he was able to grow. Wearing a turban, he would always come and meet you, salam, this and that. When he went into college, I think it was at UIC, I received a message from his brother, and his brother said to me, make dua for my brother, he's left Islam. And this news actually haunted me. It haunted me, it scared me so much that a person like that, who you, when you see, like the hadith that we talk about in Abbas, that Allah subhanahu puts love in other people's hearts for this person. If a person like that, his iman is still on ice, his iman is still hanging in the balance, then what's our guarantee? What's our guarantee that we said that, I'm Muslim, I'm going to enter Jannah? Oh, there's a hadith, whoever has the smallest bit of iman in their heart, they're into Jannah, I'm safe. Right? Absolutely no guarantee. Alhamdulillah, later on we knew that this person, he then came back into the folds of Islam. So one of the most important du'as that you and I can make, that we should make du'a, every time you raise your hand, you have to make a point that you make this du'a, that, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give us the kalima la ilaha illallah at the time of our death. If not the kalima la ilaha illallah, then make sure we have the kalima in our heart. If our lips can't utter it, for some reason, the best death is that your lips utter la ilaha illallah. But if for some reason your lips can't utter that, then let it be in our hearts. And we're talking about a person lives his life the way he wants. In the final stages, if he has iman in his heart, this person is an absolute success. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is going to battle. He's going to war. And from the opposite side came a person on a horse. And he was rushing through the Muslims. And he came until he saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he came off his horse, and he stood in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he began to ask Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam a series of questions. He asked him, "Are you Muhammad?" He said, "Yes, I'm Muhammad." Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, "Are you the son of Abdullah?" He said, "Yes, I'm the son of Abdullah." "Are you the Muhammad who came and brought this message of Islam, of one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?" Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Yes." He says that, "I want to accept this religion. I want to accept this religion." And he recites, "Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah." And he comes into the fold of Islam. After coming into the fold of Islam, he says to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Where are you going?" Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "We're going to the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect the deen. That this deen is being attacked, and we're going to protect the deen." This man says to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "If you're going to protect the deen, then you will not see me in the back, you will see me all in the front. I will protect the deen with you, and I'll be all there in the front. I'll be one of the first people to shed blood." This man, he gets on his horse, and he goes rushing to the front. And his horse trips, he falls off the horse, his neck, he hurts his neck, and he dies on the spot. He dies on the spot. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Rasulullah saw this Sahabi's body. He said, "How lucky is this person? How lucky is this person? That he lived his life the way he wanted to. He did whatever he wanted. In the final stages of his life, he got Iman, and he became a Sahabi. Something that is absolutely impossible now. You can't do nowadays, right? You can't. Nobody can become close to Allah, but the level of becoming Sahabi, that's gone. Right? This person, in the stage of his life, he said the kalima la ilaha illallah. He accepted Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as messenger. He took Allah subhanahu wa taala as one, and then he accepted Islam. He became a Sahabi, and then he became a Shaheed as well. He became a Shaheed, why? Because he was going the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He gained all three of these ranks in a very short period of time. Which teaches, again, the whole topic that we're talking about is you can live your life however you want. But if the final stages are according to Islam, then you're successful. On the other hand, you and I, we can try to better ourselves as much as we want, but if our outcome, we spoke about this hadith, how a person, he does the a'mal of the people of Jannah until between him is a hand span. Between him and Jannah is a hand span. Remember this hadith? That between him and Jannah is a hand span. But then he turns around and he changes things. And he does the action of the people of Jahannam. Until qada happens, he ends up in Jahannam. Right? So just like this, in this hadith, we learn a very, very valuable lesson that a person, he should value his iman and make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him death with iman. That he leaves this world with, if you look at the dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, very beautiful duas. Very, very beautiful duas. He teaches us that you should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a death when you are at your peak of your iman. Right? When you are at your peak of your iman, you should say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, take me then. Our iman at times, it's like a roller coaster. We go up sometimes, and then we go down. We go up, we go down. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us like this. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives us the different occasions that come. That Ramadan will come and your iman will skyrocket. And then, as Ramadan goes, your iman begins to dip down. But then Hajj season comes. And then again your iman skyrockets. And then every week you have the little bumps. Jummah. That your iman goes up. And then different things happen. That sometimes you might become sick. You might become sick, or you might have, when you become sick, your iman goes up again. Your trust in Allah subhanahu goes up again. Or you might face a difficulty in your life. Right? Something hard, the hardship might come, again your iman goes up. Or something good happens. You have a child, your iman goes up. You become close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? You begin to give sadaqah and this and that. Right? Or you become old, and you start to realize that, look, my life is coming to an end now. A birthday comes. The whole issue of should a person celebrate their birthday? The fact that you made it alive and you still have iman for a full year, I think that's celebrate worthy, right? Tap yourself on the back and say, Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has gave you another year that you've lived, you passed. Why? Because there's so many other that didn't live this long. Right? You made it to this destination. Again, I'm not telling you to go have a huge party, but just give yourself a pat on the back. Right? But this is different parts of our life that our iman spikes up. And the dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take our lives when our iman is at a high. Our iman is being lifted. Then a person should make sure they ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take us when we are in a good state. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to make dua that, take me when don't give me a life where I'm dependent on others. Right? Give me a life where I am independent. I'm not a boj, I'm not a burden on somebody else. Right? So even about our final days of our lives, a person should begin to make dua and ask for a good khatimah. One of our teachers, Shaykh Islam al-Haq, I probably mentioned him before. He would commonly joke. He used to eat ban. Right? He used to eat ban. And our fellow students, they used to joke to Shaykh Sahab, ban mat khao. Right? It's bad for your health. And he would say, "Mere pyaro, when I leave the dunya, inshallah I'll have ban in my mouth as well." Right? He used to joke around and say, "When I leave in the dunya, I'm ban hoga." And when he actually passed away, his son, Shaykh Ziaul Haq, he was my teacher, and he would, when he would miss his father in class, he would tell us that how it happened. And he said that we were in Madinah Munawwara in the month of Ramadan. We went for Umrah in the month of Ramadan in Madinah Munawwara, and Abba Jani, my father, he would go before Fajr and just go sit in the Masjid Nabawi. And he would put his pan in his mouth and he would begin to read Quran. Just have his pan there and he would read Quran. And he, sometimes he would take me or my brother with him. And one night while he was sitting there, he went into sajda. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took his ruh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took his ruh there. Right? That he was in the month of Ramadan, in Masjid Nabawi, in Madinah Munawwara, in sajda, with the pan in his mouth. Right? With the pan in his mouth. So a person, you learn that you should, as Umar Ratan, he used to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Oh Allah, give me a death in the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and give me shahada. Right? Give me death in the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and give me shahada. And other companions say, Umar, this dua doesn't make sense. Why? Because we're not in a wage war in Medina. We're at a place where there's aman, there's peace. And it's not going to happen in Madinah Munawwara. But the dua was accepted from Umar Ramadan. He died in Madinah Munawwara and he was made shaheed. He was martyred. Right? So from this part of the hadith, again, we learned that a person should make dua about their final days. Again, this hadith is narrated by Ibn Mas'ud. Ibn Mas'ud says that the blood of a Muslim, a person who believes in the kalima la ilaha illallah, who has the structure that we've been speaking about, once the structure is made, you cannot just go and destroy that structure. Why? Because the structure has a value in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It can only be destroyed in one of the three ways. Number one, the thayyib zani, a married person who commits zina. We talked about zina, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا zina, don't even go close to it. Anything that leads you to it, if it is a text, or if it is a chat, or if it's, a movie or some sort of music that leads you to zina, that can open those pathways for you, don't even go close. Stay as far as you can away from it. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا zina, don't go close to it. Allah subhanahu doesn't say don't commit zina, He says don't go close to it. Right? Al-Thayyib al-Zani, again, this is such a disease that destroys the whole community. Right? A person has to learn to control his desires. And we talked about how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in different hadith, he taught us how to control these desires. If you're married, then go to your wife and take care of those needs. If you're not married, then if you're capable, then go ahead and get married. And if you're not capable, then then you should start fasting. Right? Start fasting, and this will give you control over your desires. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says that inna salata tanha anil fahsha. A person should work on his salah. Why? Because his salah would keep him safe. He'll worry that I've been putting so much work That don't become like the lady who knits, that you pull one string and everything's gone. That you commit such a sin that all of the good deeds that you accumulated are now gone to waste. The second person is a nafs bin nafs, right? An eye for an eye. That you kill a person, and in return the qisas will be that you will be killed. Again, this qisas in the eyes of the modern days might be very harsh, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِصَاصِ حَيَاتٌ. There's life in this strict qisas of Islam. And the third and final person is a person who, na'udhu billahi min dhalik, he leaves Islam. After Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him with this gift of Iman, this person then rebels. Right? One is that you don't accept somebody as a king at all. You don't accept somebody as a leader at all. But then after accepting this person, then you rebel and say, no, you know what, I changed my mind. This is a greater sin. Right? And one of the reasons why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he puts such a strong, right, such a strong punishment for this is to scare a person straight. Tell a person that, look, don't leave while you're going to be killed. Telling you that basically your iman is that important, just hold on to it. It's like giving the person the ultimate, the worst ultimatum, right? Scaring the person. Why? So he just holds on to iman. Whatever little iman he has, he holds on to it. Why? Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, whoever has the smallest bit of iman in his heart, into Jannah. Right? Man qala la ilaha illallah, dakhal al-Jannah. Whoever said la ilaha illallah, and he holds on to it, he keeps his iman safeguarded, dakhal al-Jannah. And again, from this hadith, this last part we see, that's very important that we safeguard our iman. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a good khatma. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all a good khatma. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give our family a good khatma. That at the time of death, we have the kalima, la ilaha illallah. The kalima of najat, the kalima of success, the kalima of freedom. That will free our necks from the fire of Jahannam, and that will give us immediate access into the garden of paradise. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.